Hi there, this is Jennifer Wilson. Welcome to Leadership Lunch Chat. I'm here with my good friend, Amy Better. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
How's it going?
Happy to be here with you today.
I'm happy to be here with you too. Amy and I are discussing all kinds of business transformation and everybody in the marketplace is. And so we discuss trends and things that keep coming up, and she and I are out there talking to firms and finance departments and all sorts of stakeholders in the profession, and change and transformation and real model transformation, not just little changes or system changes, but really changing the model keeps coming up. And we're doing a decent amount of transformation presentations, both of us. And so one of the things we thought we would do, it's easy to get into the details on business model transformation, and everybody sort of has an opinion of what it means too. Some people would say that it means like the highest level of transformation, like private equity or M&A, or should we have an ESOP, or we'll continue in the partnership model. And so like they think of it at the highest level. Some think of it inside the business like, man, we need to transform pricing, or boy, we need to, really integrate AI or transform talent, so they kind of think of it in what we would call the strategic initiative kind of way. And so one of the things that I've been playing with a little bit is like, why are we transforming? What are our objectives in any transformation? And I've come up with a list that I'm not going to say is perfect. And Amy and I, are going to play with this list, and we would encourage you to join us in that play, in this conversation. We'll see, but it's the why, the purpose. And getting centered on purpose probably helps sell any transformation internally that we have to make. It also helps ground us in the key objectives and timeline and all of those things that we might need to drive change. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a look at this list. It's, my first cut at it, so please do not, think that it's the end all, but we would love to have your input as we go. So feel free to share comments. And then, Amy, let's dig in on this list. These are possible reasons that we might want to drive change, or things that we're trying to achieve with said change. So do you want to start?
Yeah, I want to reference first, by aligning yourself to any of these things, going back to purpose and your values. I don't know that everyone does a really good job of drilling into purpose. And, when you go to a lot of websites, the mission statement is the same for many companies, and there's not a lot of work on like what makes you unique, what makes your culture unique, and what is important. And what you'll find here is like when you're looking at this list of areas of, why am I doing this? The why should align back to your values, and making sure that this is aligned to the kind of value you want to create in your business, not only for your clients, but for your employees. The one that's, catching my eye on here is profits to a point, sharing the upside. And I do think that it's important to come back to your values on this point, because I think a lot of decisions get stuck in leadership over compensation. And in two ways. One is that I've heard a number of firms say, if we just fix compensation, that will fix the problem. Not necessarily. So this is an and, is making sure that compensation is fair, and people can share in the hard work and efforts that they're making with the work that they're doing and contributing to the company. And it's not all being held with a few people. However, it's not going to be the only silver bullet, because if the culture isn't something that is giving someone a feeling of, like you said, psychological safety and openness and so forth, then what happens is if I have another company come in and give me the same offer for compensation, I've got apples to apples. If I'm going to make the same money, but it might be a better culture, I'm going to go there. So there's got to be a lot of trigger points in your head of, it's not just about the money, it's about all these other things I get from a work environment and from my leadership that makes it important for me to stay.
Yes. Well, and this is on the list because anytime you're trying to make any business change, you're trying to make something better, right? You're trying, it ought to improve something. And so a lot of times when we're making business change, we have to make sure, man, this change will drive profits.
Mm-hmm.
We also, though, have to be careful because we're making an awful lot of money in most public accounting organizations today. It's decently profitable. Yes, there are a lot of investments that need to be made, but profits are pretty significant, and that's one of the reasons that PE is so attracted. And so, just recognizing in our transformation plans, we don't want to blow off profitability. We don't want to really, hamper it, but we really do need to invest. We're investing in these things. And it might cost us. The average partner net income doesn't always have to go up. It's gone up significantly over time. It could be flat. It could even be down as we make these investments. And then paying attention to sharing upside for any profit improvement or enhancement that happens because of our changes, upside with the people that helped implement it, with the people that are participating in causing the new thing, whatever that might be. So to me, that's one of the things to pay attention to. Another one, like, what is it all about? What are we trying to achieve? Probably, I don't know if it's the most important one on here for me, but less grind and more joy.
Mm-hmm.
And, anytime we're trying to make any sort of change, we need to be thinking about, is this going to simplify things? Is it going to make things more efficient? Is it going to make it harder for people or easier for the talent here? Is it going to make it harder for clients or easier? Is it, how can we drive change that causes us to be able to work better, smarter, make more money, but not grind more? One of the things we're known for on the public accounting side is working hard, and especially in our peak periods, whatever those might be for your specialty or service line. And so from my perspective, one of my objectives always is, how can this not be more difficult for us? More effort, more difficult. And maybe there's more effort and investment to launch it. But after that, how is it going to streamline things and make it not lazy easy, but just easier, better? Mm-hmm. And then the other piece is, and so that's the less grind. More joy is, could we think about all the changes we're trying to make under the lens of, could we have fun? Could we love the clients? Could we love the work? Could we be proud of and excited about our deliverables? Could we find joy together as we're making this change? Will the future state give us at least the same amount of joy, perhaps more joy than we've been having? And in order to do less grind and more joy, usually we have to reduce volume and charge more so we still make money. Not always, but I put charge more in parentheses there because I think that to fund some of the joy and reduce some of the grind, we need to get paid more for our expertise.
Yeah, and I would probably take 3 of these together, because with joy, and if you want to do more with less, it comes back to profits. That there has to be a look at the amount of money you're making and it not all going back to partners is what is the percentage that is going toward future innovation and change so that you can do more with less and you can create more joy and a better work life. And so too many times we look at the money and we've always allocated it in the same ways. Or when people are talking about the things that aren't creating them joy in the work that they're doing, or the things that are too manual or creating the extra work, because, personally, there may be some, there's always cases of not liking certain clients, but for the most part, I feel the profession does a really good job of taking care of clients. Like, that is the number one focus of loving my client. But we're not necessarily as loving toward the people inside the organization as we are toward the client work. And when they need our time, when we need to talk, when we need to talk about innovation, when we need to involve them in innovation, are we spending the time that we need to create that joy, to automate? And where is that money coming from? So there should be a percentage of whatever money you're making each year that is going toward future investment. And it does help with prioritizing which things that you are going to do that year, because what are the most important things to use that money for? But it has been earmarked. Everyone there knows you're going to do it, so that you can keep improving this year after year and people be proud of the workplace that they work in, not necessarily just a focus on client, but a focus on it's not going to be too costly because we put money for this initiative. We have people dedicated to do those things in the organization to make sure that we're constantly improving.
Yes. Innovation committee, budgets for it, those kinds of things. Yeah, I get that. Well, so another one that I don't want to go down too deep a rat hole here, but I think that, measuring what matters is important, and just in that example that you were giving, like, do we have dedicated resources? Have we budgeted? Are we, is the investment clear? Is who's going to do it by when important? Those are project management measures, but like paying attention to things like that. We tend to say we want these other things, but then measure time. And if I measure time and I don't want to grind more and I value more time, I'm going to grind more, like during conflict. And so we have to pay attention to the traditional measures that we have in place. And it's okay if you want to keep using some of them or all of them, but you've got to identify new measures that will measure some of these other objectives. Like, how can we measure making a real difference? Like, how do you measure that? And is it, client acceptance of the deliverables? Is it, our clients are genuinely, saving tax dollars? It's, our relationships with clients are really strong, and their regular client surveys show that they appreciate what we're doing and appreciate the quality of our deliverables. Our talent surveys reflect high engagement. Our retention numbers exist. Like, what are we paying attention, measuring? And it's not just backroom measurement, because some of these things like HR is measuring, or IT's measuring, or somebody else is measuring, marketing's measuring, but they may not get published internally or externally. They may not be very transparent. And they may not be talked about a lot. So people continue to fall back on traditional measures, and that's what they're focused on. That's how they're managing their people, their teams, their engagements off those traditional measures. And we know that those traditional measures don't necessarily maximize profits or grind less, simplification. So anyway, just a thought that we might measure things that make a real difference.
Yeah. I would go back to the values again. Yeah. So there's a reason we come up with values for an organization. And a lot of times those values are put aside. We come up with them, we say it, and then we put it aside, but we don't actually evaluate people on the work because we use utilization and realization instead of the values markers that would give us a better idea. Are we really living to the purpose and the mission that we serve? So technically, if you put those values in place, that should achieve the results, if not better, because everyone in the organization is working in regard to those values. So for example, if these were values, less grind and more joy, automation and simplification, open and respectful communication, and people were being evaluated on that up from all the way at the top, all the way to the lowest level, you will find the value proposition that comes out of it when people start working to those values. That's the whole point of creating a culture in that way.
Yes, 100%. And these are like grounding ideas. Values, yes. Defining your culture with a construct of core values. And yet I think a lot of organizations, they have those values and they haven't revisited them. Mm-hmm. They are not updated. They are part of the business model transformation that needs to happen, because I will tell you right now, if we went across, let's say 1,000 CPA firms, we would find almost all of them have a value, like a written value on their in their core value section of their website: quality. Okay, quality and customer service or client service. Those are values, and those are yesterday's values. They're important. Quality and client service, super important. But like reframing them is really, really, really important. And so to me, I just started thinking, like, with anything we're doing right now, what's the purpose? Yes, we have to adhere to core values, but even that needs to be reevaluated and transformed. That's part of the business model transformation, rethinking. What is our vision? Like right now, many firms are like, what is our vision? Are we going to sell this thing? Are we going to take on PE money? Are we going to do mergers? Are we going to stay fiercely independent? What is our vision? That has to be reframed. Our mission, maybe it needs to be reframed, the reason we exist, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Core values, I think all those need evaluation, because they're yesterdays. They're too traditional, and they're not thinking about how to make life better. That's my opinion. In most organizations, they're not make life better, make life simpler, and so that's why I started creating this list to say, in all of these places that we're thinking about doing change, what are those core constructs that we're super committed to achieve that maybe we don't have right now? Maybe that's another way of saying what this list is stuff we don't have in our practices or businesses today, or that isn't where it needs to be. And another way to think of it, and so this is like a made up list, right? So you make up your own list, each of us as leaders. You might take this list as a list of ideas, but like getting your team members to say, every single business model transformation we're doing, what should the core purpose and outcomes be? And not just outcomes like we're going to deliver this by this date, but like what will feel different in this place after it? Mm-hmm. What will be different in our lives after it? What will forever change in the organization because we did this? And it's like a higher purpose or something that I'm trying to get to. And I'm also trying to get people to recognize sometimes we're doing change and it's not going to achieve any of these things.
Yeah.
And then I'm
in return.
Yeah. Why are we doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, are we doing it because the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses, they're doing it? Like what? Why are we doing it? Because it isn't going to get us to these places, any of these places. So anyway, just a thought. There are two more that totally tie, and that's open, respectful discourse, this feedback. Mm-hmm. And it's feedback, but it's also like pushback a little bit, respectfully done, not defensive leaders who don't want to hear objections or difficult questions, allowing people to sort of ponder the root of all these ideas and say, well, what about this? And what if this happens? And like being willing to explore all of that. And then the other piece is transparency, and the idea that leaders need to really keep the truth circulating. They need to, and by that, an example, and we could do a whole leadership lunch chat on this, don't have time for it today, is like being transparent about, hey, we don't know if we're going to pursue one of these different ownership structures, but we are engaging in conversations to explore it. In the absence of information, people make up their own. It's usually negative, and most firm leaders are being totally silent about these kinds of ideas. They're not painting the 5-year vision. They're not talking about the way forward. They're being totally silent. And you don't have to say we're definitely going to transact, but to say we recognize this is a trend. We expect that you might be wondering what we're doing. And we would be remiss if we didn't learn more and have conversations. And so we're doing that, and we'll keep you posted. Like just being transparent as an example. I'm just using that as a today example. So anyway, just a few thoughts there on the communication side.
And to get feedback. So I think an important thing with, topics like that is that there is a level of fear. And like you said, people are having those conversations, whether you're having it or not. However, when you open yourself up to say, we are exploring, this is something that is going on in the industry, doesn't mean we're going to do anything. We're going to keep you up to date on it, but we'd love to have your feedback of what have you experienced any of these things in your career? And what were some pitfalls that you experienced? What did you think worked well? What didn't work well? Things that we should consider when we're evaluating these different options, because we want to make sure everybody's on the bus with us.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get to everything on the list, but I appreciate you kind of exploring this with me and with our listeners. And we welcome other ideas, these grounding principles, and maybe you might call them sort of new school ways of thinking about the accounting business model. And so there's more to the list. That wasn't exhaustive. We welcome people sharing them. Perhaps you and I will generate some more for future discussion. We'll probably have to enter into psychological safety, which we've done before as a topic, but it's always a good one and a really important one. None of this matters if we don't have it, by the way. Nobody stays working for a company. Nobody who's really awesome stays working for a company without it. So anyway, we'll get to that in a future leadership lunch chat. Amy, thank you so much for processing this with me today. And Caroline, thanks for running the back end. Thanks to all the listeners who have participated. And we look forward to further conversations with you all. Take care and have a great weekend. Bye now.